Good evening, everyone. My name is Hemang Laaheru, and welcome to this session on global mobility. Before we kind of go ahead, I just wanted to ensure that you could hear me clearly. So if you can just give me some feedback in the chat box, if I'm audible and if you can hear me, then that would be fantastic. Brilliant, brilliant. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your feedback. Yes, you can hear me clearly. Thank you. Brilliant. Right. Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome to this program on global mobility for HNIs and for business owners. My name is Hemang Laaheru. I'm a lawyer and a partner at SmartMove Immigration. And I'm going to provide you with a little bit of an overview today on this session. So the way we're going to kind of proceed with things today is we're going to have a look at a difference between the concept of citizenship and PR. So I'm pretty sure that you are you're all aware about it, but we'll just kind of touch base in terms of what it is. And what we're going to do is use the time today to kind of have a brief insight into what are the different routes for the most popular destinations. So we've got some of the feedback from the people who have registered and also from the experience that we work with. We've identified certain popular destinations for citizenship and for permanent residence. And we're just going to shed some lights on there so that it helps you to start the process, to crystallize your thoughts a little bit. We've had a lot of questions at the time of registration from delegates. And today, if you have any questions as we go along, use the Q&A box to drop in your questions, and we will look at addressing them on air. And in the event, if we are not able to do so, then we'll definitely be connecting with you one-on-one and addressing your queries. And just to kind of let you know, this presentation will be made available on our YouTube channel as well, so it'll be available for you to go back and visit it. And you'll also get a copy of this presentation that we are running through right now. And we've left some time in for Q&A towards the end so that we are able to address questions, share information and knowledge on any of the areas that we're covering through. So it's great to see so many people on the call. We've had 140 registrations for the event today, and we've got 60 people who've logged in. So it's fantastic for a Friday evening to see that kind of participation. So thank you very much for making the effort to do so. Now, moving on, a little bit about ourselves. So we are an immigration law firm, and we basically cover in a niche area within the legal space, which is immigration law for different countries. We represent clients in different jurisdictions. We have 4 offices in India, and we've been in the business since 2009, and we've got thousands of success stories that we've been fortunate to work with for clients in different domains. Most important that we're proud of is the feedback that we get from our clients, and it's there on our Facebook page, it's there on Google reviews if you search for us. And in terms of our professional accreditations, we're members of the Law Society of England and Wales. We're also registered with the Immigration Law Practitioners Association, Who's Who Legal, and we've got quite a few corporate-owned business awards as well. In terms of the media presence, we've been featured on BBC World News on a couple of occasions, and myself and my colleagues, we regularly provide media input to various publications. So that's a little bit about us. And one of the key parts in terms of how the business has structured in 2020 is we've seen a greater shift towards technology, and in just 1 year alone, we covered in almost 600 plus consultations over Skype, WhatsApp, Zoom. We did about 48 webinars last year, and we were able to touch 5,500 attendees, in that space, even during the lockdown. And we service our clients online, and not only in India, but from around the world. So we've had clients from about 20 countries that we serviced last year. So that's an achievement that we're incredibly proud of. So what really makes our process effective is the four stages that we generally work through. So the first stage is our pre-screening stage, where we look at identifying the right mix for the clients based on their lifestyle, based on their resources, based on what is their demographic, and we look at matching what's the right jurisdiction for them. Once we've done that, we'll then review the paperwork for the clients and go on to prepare and submit an application. And the last bit we feel is a lot more important because we're able to provide in-country support to our clients. And this is not only in terms of ensuring that when they're there, our support doesn't end, but helping them to do market feasibility studies for new businesses. If they want to launch any kind of a business, what would be a preferred entry strategy for that? Also identifying investment potentials for them to kind of make private investments or business investments for acquisitions and so on and so forth, to even looking at providing advice on housing, schooling, and things like that. The nitty-gritty stuff, which really makes a difference on the ground. So that was about us, and we'll kick on with the rest of the presentation. So just a quick kind of an insight into two terms which sometimes get used interchangeably. So as a concept, we have a concept of citizenship and that of permanent residence. Now, when you are a citizen of another country, you lose the your primary citizenship in certain areas. So, for example, we've taken an example of India. We know that we've got people from Far East logging in today, as well as from West Africa. So, if your countries allow for dual citizenship, so you can hold two passports, then you're fine. So then when you get a citizenship of another country, you're allowed to keep your original passport as well. However, in India's case, Indian nationals cannot hold dual citizenships. So they have to give up their Indian passports and then they get the citizenship of another country. A permanent residence, on the other hand, is slightly different. It means that you still retain your Indian citizenship, or you retain your original citizenship, and you get a permanent residence right. So this is a step down from a full citizenship of another country. Again, from an Indian perspective, applicants can apply for and they receive an overseas citizen of India card or an OCI card. Whereas if you are a permanent resident, then you don't have to get an OCI card because you still have an Indian passport and you have a permanent residence in another jurisdiction. Now, the benefit of being a citizen is that you will be eligible for certain key benefits, primarily visa-free travel, which is awarded to citizens. So, for instance, if you're a citizen of UK or Portugal, you could travel to 180 countries without a visa. So that's one of the biggest perks of being a citizen of a country. In addition to that, you could get consular access. If you're stuck for whatever reason, you'll be able to claim certain benefits and privileges. Whereas if you're a permanent resident, you're still an Indian national, you're still covered by the rules which govern and the facilities which are offered to Indian nationals. But you have permanent residence in another jurisdiction, which means that you still have the ability to travel without any hindrance. You still have the ability to stay there for longer periods without any issues. You could take in employment, you could start a business, depending on the permissions granted to you by your permanent residence. Now, in certain countries, students, for example, in terms of obtaining education, will get charged at local rates once an applicant has a permanent residence. So if you're a citizen or if you have a permanent residence, then you could be classed as a local student, which could then mean savings in terms of the tuition fees. It could mean discounts in terms of accommodations or things like that. So those kind of benefits is what you can obtain, whether you're a permanent resident or if you're a citizen. And essentially, that's what sets one apart to the other. So primarily if you want to keep your Indian passport and you want to have the rights to go to another country and still have the ability to travel and all the rest of it, then permanent residence is something which is suited for you. If you're looking at making a clean start and a new break altogether, then citizenship is the right option for you. And always remember that, if you are an Indian national, you will always have an overseas citizen of India card, which will almost give you the same kind of rights as an Indian citizen for the most part. So that's essentially what the migration concept is. Now, one of the questions popularly that we get asked every time is, how has COVID impacted migration? Is it still even feasible to travel to another country and to take up residence or citizenship? Well, quite simply, whilst we're going through a pandemic, which is, a global phenomena, but we have seen in the past with incidents of SARS coming out of China in 2003, the H1N1 coming out of Mexico in 2009, the Ebola virus in West Africa in 2014, the Zika outbreak in Latin America and the USA in 2015. So all of these have affected regions. They have affected the way we travel to those regions or people within that regions. And even though this is the first time that, we're seeing a wider impact of COVID-19. But the key part is to remember that, as a people, we've always adapted. So, for example, if you're traveling to Africa or if you're going to Central or South America, even though there are problems with with epidemics and pandemics out there, you still get a vaccine, and you get a vaccine, you get yourself inoculated, and you travel. UK, for instance, requires nationals from a lot of countries where TB is still prevalent to get a TB test before they can travel to the UK. And this particularly applies for people who are going to stay there for longer periods. So, if you have a residence visa, then you need to get a TB test before you fly. CIC in Canada requires health screening for PR, and this is the same for Australia as well. So what we have done as a people is we have adapted, we have moved on. Sometimes it takes us longer, but as we're seeing right now with the whole vaccination program, particularly in the Western countries, there's a greater momentum. So, for instance, UK is in the stage 4 of its unlock, just one stage away from a complete unlock, and they've opened up borders to travel to countries on the green list. So slowly and steadily, they're making progress in that sense. So, in light of all of this, there still remains hope for individuals to have, an option for travel and all the rest of it. And even with a lockdown, people who had residency rights, people who were citizens, still had the permissions to get special arrangements to go back to their home countries. Except if you were an Australian citizen, because Australia is not allowing its citizens back. But for all the other countries, you still had that option, and you could work that through. So, what do we have to look forward to? Well, quite simply, if you consider UK doesn't offer you a citizenship by investment program or a direct permanent residence on the basis of investment. But what it does offer you is it offers a pathway to settlement. So, for example, the focus is on business houses, entrepreneurs, companies, and even innovators. You could look at taking the tier 1 investor route, where you make an investment of £2 million, and that could allow you entry clearance to come into the UK, stay there, and then at the end of 5 years, you can apply for settlement. If you were making significant investments, so if your investment was about 5 million or 10 million, you could even get an accelerated settlement. So you could actually settle in 2 years' time instead of the normal 5 years. So there isn't a direct pathway, but obviously the investor visa is a good route for individuals. Another good thing about the tier 1 investor visa is that it does not have an English language requirement. So what we do see is we have several high net worth clients in places like Amritsar, in Gujarat, in Hyderabad, and they're typically landowners, or they have a lot of assets, or they've inherited monies, and they're not able to take the English language test, in which case the investor visa is a great option for them, because they're able to utilize that investment and they can take it across with them to the UK. So it's a good route in that sense. One of the popular routes that we see from UK's perspective is the sole representative visa. Now, the key draw with this is it does not require a minimum investment commitment. There is no job creation criteria, and it is generally suited for businesses to test the waters in the UK before they can make a full expansion. So that's a great route for people. The tier two route is for companies to send through skilled workers or on a temporary or on a permanent basis. And from 1st of January 2021, the rules have eased up considerably so that people are able to send employees over on settlement visa category. So that's a great option again. Now, like the sole representative, the tier two also is a 5-year pathway to settlement. And obviously, you have the innovator visa and the startup visa. So if you have a great idea, if you have an innovative idea, if you think that this is this is different to what the UK market has seen, or you're doing it better than what the UK market is seeing, you could pitch that across as an innovative idea, and it only requires an investment of about £50,000. So it's a great route if you have that idea. And even if you did not have the funds, you could offer the startup visa. And this is designed for people with kind of, limited or no business experience, and they could be applying under the startup visa. So UK offers these pathways for its, for people who want to settle in, bring value into the business. The US is the most popular destination from an Asian perspective, and particularly from an Indian perspective. India is one of the largest source countries of migrants, and US is one of the biggest destinations for Indian migrants. And this includes businesses, investors, students, and even individuals who are joining their families in the US. Now, the focus again from a US perspective is on high net worth individuals, is on entrepreneurs, and again, they welcome companies as well. And some of the popular routes for the US, you have the L1 visa. So the L1 visa is where a company is looking at expanding its business to the US. Again, it wants to nominate a senior employee of the business to enter the US to set up that particular venture. Then that's a good route which can come through. The US has an E2 treaty, E2 visa route. Now, this is a unique one and not as popular in India at the moment because India is not a direct signatory to the E2 treaties. But there are countries like Grenada, Turkey, which are signatories to the E2 visa. And some people use that as a pathway. So they would look at getting a Turkish citizenship. Once you get a Turkish citizenship, you can then apply for an E2 visa to the US. And the best part is it'll cost you half of the investment amount as what an EB5 would cost. So the investment threshold with the EB5 is the minimum of $900,000. And if it's not in a targeted economic area, then it is 1.8 million. But if you were to take the E2 visa route, then your investment threshold is almost half. So people do prefer that at times as well because it's quicker than the EB5. It requires lesser investment, and it almost takes the same time in terms of entry to the US. So that could be a viable option for individuals as well. Another popular destination from an Indian perspective is obviously Canada. And we see a lot of traffic to Canada, particularly from students, professionals who want to go to Canada on the Express Entry program. But for people who are slightly older in terms of age, so they don't score enough points on the Express Entry, or if they haven't scored that high on their IELTS, or they don't want to take an IELTS and score at a very advanced level, then the PNP pathway, the provincial nominee pathway for the investors and entrepreneurs is a good idea. And essentially, if I was to simplify the PNP options for Canada, um, the, the, the criteria is just threefold. You could either select a tier one province like Ontario, where you are committing to make an investment of about 8 to 10 crores, or you pick a tier two province like British Columbia, where you're committing to make an investment of about 4 to 6 crores, or you could have provinces like Yukon and Manitoba, where you commit an investment of about 1 to 2 CR. Now, these are thresholds for a successful application. The minimum investment criteria is way lower. So a lot of times people look at marketing materials and they would say, oh, but Canada only requires you to have $200,000. That's true, but that just gets you in a league table. But if you wanted your application to be successful, if you wanted it to go to the next level, then it's realistic to expect that you're putting in these kind of investments if your choice is for these provinces. So that's essentially something that you're looking at. Or you could have a startup visa route for Canada, again, which requires some investment from a startup perspective to enter into the country. So these are kind of the popular routes that we see. With Australia, we see a fair bit of interest from people at times, but there are two factors which kind of draw people away from it. And that's mainly the size of the investment and the processing time as well. So typically a processing time for an investor category at the moment is between 18 to 24 months, which in a sense is a lot longer. And if you have a longer horizon to say that, okay, you want to make a decision later, then perhaps that is something that you could look at. Now, where we see a lot more interest is in the various visas, which are generally known as the golden visas. And what you see on your screen are classic examples of the various golden visa programs within Europe. And the most popular ones are the ones in Portugal, Malta, and Greece. And as you can see that there are other ones from countries like Spain, Cyprus, and even Ireland, but they're not as much in demand. And we'll look at them in a minute as to why that happened. So Portugal is one of the biggest draws, so to speak, on the golden visa program. And the reason for that is, you could make an investment from 280,000 euros in certain class of investment. And, that amount can go up to 500,000 euros as well. But the bare minimum that you need is 280,000 euros. You could make an application for yourself, for your parents, for your in-laws. So typically you could actually have 3 generations of people migrating on a single investment, which is fantastic because when you look at the threshold, 280,000 euros to make an investment, is really not that much in the scheme of things. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to work, it allows you to start a business, it allows you to study in Portugal without any restrictions. And again, because this is part of the Schengen area, you're allowed free mobility across the Schengen states for about 3 months or 90 days at a time without any restrictions. One of the other stronger draws for Portugal is the fact that you could be eligible for citizenship after 5 years without having to stay for longer duration. So typically, Portugal requires you to stay for a minimum of 1 to 2 weeks every year for that 5-year duration, and you could still be eligible for a citizenship, which is very different to the other countries. So Malta and Greece will probably take you longer, but they will also have a residency requirement in there. And some of the key areas in Portugal in terms of business, you have tourism, you have textiles, you have food processing. So tourism is the biggest draw. It gets a lot of European traffic coming into places like Porto and Lisbon, Albufeira, which are great tourist destinations. So if you made an investment into a tourist property, you could be guaranteed, incomes, for at least 4 to 5 months in a year, which is great. And you could rent out the property for the other 6 months if you chose to do so. Or you could set up your own vacation home if you wanted to. In fact, in 2020, we saw a large draw towards Portugal because Portugal offered investments in bonds, which was fantastic because it takes away all the hassle of having to go to a place, look at the houses, look at the investments. You could just sit in, at home, buy the bonds online and get your rights established without having the hassle of looking at and dealing with, the different laws and everything pertaining to real estate, looking at the potential of, what things are going to be like and all the rest of it. So last year, we were actually surprised because, we were able to do a lot of Portugal golden visas, primarily focused on bonds, because, due to the lockdown, people were not able to travel. They were not able to defer. And yet they wanted that security that when things do open up, we should be able to get there. So the processing time for a Portuguese golden visa is about 3 to 5 months. So again, that's a great opportunity. Another good opportunity in terms of permanent residence in the EU is from Malta. And Malta has a claim that it is probably the only other English-speaking country other than the UK within the Europe. So it's really convenient for people to be based out there. Malta is also home to a lot of financial services businesses, gaming companies, banking, and fintech companies. So it's a nice hub where you could have tourism as a business opportunity, financial services, information technology companies, or even pharma companies could be based out there in Malta. So in that sense, it is a great place to be. The only difference in terms of between Malta and say Portugal would be the fact that if you were looking at getting citizenship in Malta through the PR route, you probably will have to stay for at least 7 to 8 years, and you'd have to spend at least 6 to 9 months in country in order for you to be eligible. So generally it's 9 months, and you're staying for longer duration as well. But if the idea is not to work towards a citizenship, but you're happy with having a permanent residence, a golden visa, then Malta can be a great destination because the investment threshold is lower. There's a lot of sunshine, just like Portugal. You get industries like tourism out there, and the bonus is that it's an English-speaking country. So in that sense, it's a fantastic opportunity. And again, in terms of processing, it'll be about 3 to 5 months by the time you're able to get a Maltese PR. And again, it allows you to get family members to join you as well. Third popular country on the golden visa side is Greece. And as a tourist destination, it needs no introduction. We've seen a fair bit of Bollywood movies which get shot in Greece. And the reputation for Greece as a tourist destination is obviously much well known. You could get a residence permit or a golden visa in Greece with an investment of about 250,000 euros, and this is fantastic. The only change with Portugal in here is that Greece focuses more on self-employment. So even though you have a permanent residence, you would still not be permitted to take up jobs for the locals, but you could start business, you could be self-employed, you could be running your own business in whatever area, and that's perfectly acceptable. So again, Greece is a popular destination. For those of you who want to be closer to the UK, Republic of Ireland offers an investment fund, and the investment criteria is about €1 million. The benefit of choosing Ireland as a destination will be the fact that after 5 years, when you do get an Irish passport, you're covered by a common travel area between the UK and Ireland. and Ireland is also part of the EU, so you're also covered on that. So you get the best of both worlds by being based in Ireland. And Ireland has fantastic universities, so it's great for higher education for children. It is also home to headquarters of a lot of IT and pharma companies. So working in that market also becomes a lot more easier on that side. So we're seeing a lot more questions coming in for Portugal and for Malta, and we'll be taking them up as we kind of go along. If you have more questions, feel free to keep populating the Q&A box, and we'll take that up from there. Right. The second part that we're looking at is the citizenship options. So when we talk about citizenship by investment, there are great opportunities which are available. And one of the key concepts that you have to understand with the citizenship is the difference between a donation and an investment. So certain countries will give you citizenship if you're donating the money, so there's no hope for it coming back. So in essence, you're buying a citizenship, whereas most of the other countries are content to allow you to make an investment with a lock-in period of say 4 years or 5 years, and you can get your money back. The same is a concept with a permanent residence as well. So the investment that you looked at, whether it's for Portugal, whether it's for Greece, whether it is for Malta, the lock-in period on that is for 4 or 5 years, depending on the country. And in terms of the investment, you could have a choice to make an investment in real estate, to make an investment in bonds, to make an investment in equity funds. So depending on what is the permitted asset class, you could look at making the specific investment. So when we look at citizenship by investment, a minimum threshold for the European countries is at least €1 million. And if you're willing to make that kind of an investment, or if you're willing to make that kind of a donation, like in the case of Malta, you could get a citizenship, a European passport in 6 months flat, and virtually you're buying your way to European citizenship. As an EU national, you would have the 7th strongest passport in the world. You would have ability to live and work anywhere in the Schengen area. So whether you choose Germany or France or Spain or Netherlands, you would have complete freedom without any restrictions. If you're prepared to wait a little, then Bulgaria is a good opportunity, because by investing €1 million in Bulgaria over a period of 2 years, so you're investing €500,000 or €500,000 in the first year, and another €500,000 in the second year. And by making that investment, you get a Bulgarian passport in 2 years' time. Now, again, the key part for both of these countries is that there's no language requirement, there is no residency requirement. So you could get your passport virtually delivered to your doorstep, and you wouldn't have to spend a lot of time in those countries. So that's the kind of a key part. And we're seeing a very increasing interest from Indian nationals towards citizenship by investment options. Earlier, our clientele used to be mainly from the UAE, from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, from those kind of places, or Hong Kong and Singapore. But towards from August 2020, we've seen an increased interest from high net worth individuals from India who are looking at making purchases for citizenships as a plan B for themselves or for their family. And in certain instances, a country like Turkey has an investment of only $250,000 into real estate, and it could give you a citizenship or a Turkish passport in as little as 3 to 4 months. And that will give you visa-free travel to almost 110 countries. And Turkey has a very special relationship with the EU. A lot of Turkish businesses provide and supply goods to the Schengen countries. Turkey also is an E2 signatory with the US. So if your destination was you wanted to consider the US as well, Turkey sits right in the middle, gives you access to Europe, gives you access to the US as well. So those are the kind of options which are now available to individuals should they wish to be looking at making a decision to either get a citizenship, which can be on a long-term basis, or get a permanent residence, which is kind of more immediate, more short-term solution, something you want to invest it and keep it, and maybe decide later whether you want to convert it to a full citizenship or not. And by default, it will extend to your family, it will extend to your children. Um, the citizenship laws are slightly different. You may not be able to pass your citizenship upwards to your parents and to your other dependents, but you can definitely look at passing your citizenship to your spouse and your children, so your immediate family gets covered by that. We also see a lot of interest from individuals on the Caribbean citizenship programs, where the investment thresholds are considerably lower. The amounts that you see on your screen are just typically donations that you're making to the governments, to the development fund, and in return you'll be able to get a citizenship for those jurisdictions. So again, these are lifestyle choices. Individuals are able to make these investments and all the rest of it. And, from the Caribbean perspective, very few times you would see people are looking at moving there and staying there for longer periods, but they're just using the passports in order to get the global mobility, which is offered by them. And so essentially that's where we're coming in from. Um, as a business, we also have additional opportunities. So, if you are somebody who is looking at making investments in real estate in any of these countries, including even inward investment into India, we have a lot of projects, portfolio properties for different investments, different ticket sizes. We have franchise opportunities. So if you wanted to buy a franchise for a particular product or commodity in UK, US, or Canada, we are able to do that. Or if you wanted to offer your product on a franchise basis, or if you wanted to franchise your operations, we can, help with that as well. We also promote a lot of joint ventures, identifying opportunities, helping businesses to grow. And if you are a professional who's connected with a lot of high net worth individuals, you could refer them to us for any of these areas. And we have a very strong referral program as well. And we'll be happy to share the details should you require them. Now, typically the benefit that we offer to our clients is the diversity. We've been in the business for more than 10 years. We work with clients with different industries at different scales. We have startups in our portfolio. We have clients who have a turnover of more than 1,000 or 5,000 crores as well. So we have the depth to deal with clients at different levels. So it's not focused on one kind of a client. We're equally adept at dealing with the different scales of the clients. We have a very objective approach as a business. So our idea is to make things happen for our clients and to facilitate that process, which is what kind of gives us that advantage when we're working with a diverse set of clients. At the moment, though, we're all kind of working from home across the company, but in other times, we have our offices in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, and once things do regularize, we'd love to meet up with you at these locations. We'll also be opening up our offices in London as well as in Dubai in the second half of this year. So those will be the two additional destinations that will get added in. You also have our email address and the phone numbers on your screens. If you wish to get in touch with us, we'd be happy to take your calls or answer any emails you may have for any queries that you're dealing with. So that was about it from my side.